You know, this depresses me a little bit. I remember this episode much more fondly. This three-parter, the Dark Spirit revealed. I remember this three-parter much more fondly than I ended up uh, than it ended up being. Do not get me wrong, the sub is actually really good on this one, admittedly. And it is technically better than the uh than the than the dub. Okay? I'm not going to argue that. But this ultimately boils down to a simple problem that this episode ran into. This three-parter ran into. I don't like it. I don't think this episode has much of a point in the grand scheme of things. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's outright skippable, but I don't know if it has. I don't know if it has as much connection to the rest of the entire series. For example, if you were to do a retrospective on, let's say, um, hmm, just use a random example. If you were to do a retrospective on the Namek saga, right? Would you really, in intricate detail, he'll, uh, bring up, for example, Krillin and Gohan's first, the first time they encountered the Frieza forces? Yeah, of course you would. And you would also bring up Vegeta being a dick and destroying that village. Okay. Would you bring up, for example, I don't know, would you bring up like individual, like small little pieces? Would you intricately explain every time the Legend of the Super Saiyan comes up? No, you just explain it the first time it shows up, and then you wouldn't really bring it up and discuss it until you got to the actual like Super Saiyan transformation, right? I know that's a bad example, but I'm trying to think of a better example. Actually, I do have an example for you. Okay, let's say you brought in. Let's say you were doing a broad overview of the Supreme King arc of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Would you, in great detail, explain him, and Axel's duels against the Supreme King? Would you really do that? Now, obviously, I'm going to be discussing those duels in intricate detail because they're in separate episodes, and I will be discussing the episode that they're in, which means I will kind of have to. But if you were to do, like, say, a season 3 retrospective of Yu Gi Oh! GX, would you bring that up? Would you bother? You know? And that's how I kind of feel like with this, where the only real reason to explain this episode is outside of a couple of broad overviews, and of course, the moment, which we'll get to. Who would you really bother with this episode? Explaining it in great detail? Or would it be like a paragraph of your script, right? Now, some people would, and some people wouldn't. For me, personal, and also that also depends on how much of the actual card game you're also going to factor in to your retrospective, too, because, we got to talk about Destiny board and alternate win conditions, obviously. But going back and watching this in retrospect from the perspective of somebody like me who used to play the game aim in its heyday, to the point where getting a copy of Harpy's Feather Duster in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Days collection was actually an appealing concept, right? Right? And that's kind of the problem that I run into with this. With this. Overall, can you make up your mind? Overall, I feel like this three-parter is not one you can skip, but it's not one that's gonna. For me, if I was to watch it front to back, it's not one that I would look back fondly on. Now, I think what this boils down to is how much you like Yami Bakura as a villain. The problem is that I like Yami Bakura as a villain, but he kind of gets upstaged by other villains, doesn't he? No, seriously, think about this for a second. He was a footnote in Duelist Kingdom. He was a subplot in the final duel against Pegasus. He's a backup plan of Merrick, and Merrick constantly wastes our goddamn time in this episode by yapping in his ear. And yes, I can safely say that Merrick is actually the problem with this three-parter in its entirety. Merrick is the entire reason I hate. I shouldn't say I hate. I don't hate this episode, but it's the entire reason why that gets this episode demoted a bit. If I'm honest, like for the ranking thing, because I've started to think about that. Yeah, I'm probably going to be giving this a frickin' C or D when I ultimately go back and like re-examine the episodes. When I re-examine the episodes, which I'm going to be doing after I finish season 2. I'm just going to rewatch seasons 1 and 2 and just go through it completely. Probably in the sub for the most part, because the sub has more points. Ergo, the sub is more enjoyable, in other words, for me. And then I'm probably just going to keep and just kind of binge it for the entire time. But that is part of the issue, as I said, that I'm running into. I do have stuff to talk about. It's not like I don't have anything to talk about. But there's I'm just disappointed because this is an episode that I know everybody's going to want me to discuss in finer detail. And outside of explaining some of the cards and talking about, again, the big moment, especially considering this is another reason, another episode, another duel that didn't need to take as many episodes as it took. 3 episodes is 1 episode too many for this, my opinion. It kind of, to me, it just kind of, it was running into the problem of stretched out. So, but let's go through the episode and discuss each individual point here. So the first thing is in the sub, when when Jinochi bumps into Bakura basically talks about how he has an occult deck and that it's super powerful and it defeated Bones and Oons. And that scares Jinochi into not wanting to fight him. And Joey as well. Because, he had trouble with Bones, after all, back in season 1. Although, I would argue that in his season 2 deck would get curb stomped by Joey, but that's just me. Which is funny because the occult combo didn't even have to play a factor at all in the duel against Bones. But that is, of course, neither here nor there. So then the finalists are chosen. Chosen via a card that gets by a future spell card. For those not in the know, there is a spell card called Bingo Machine Go, I want to say. It's a Blue Eyes support card, and of course it references the Bingo Machine, which determines the order of the Battle City Finals. Well, of the Battle City semifinals, anyway. Or sorry, quarterfinals. Sorry, this because the semi is the penultimate ultimate matches, and then quarterfinals is this. Because this is how they trim it down from 8 finalists to 4 for when they get to their destination. Which hasn't even been mentioned, so, but yeah, no, the blimp is going somewhere. We just don't know where yet. Anyways, but yeah, I just wanted to comment on that. So then they get up to the. So then we have a brief cutaway to Ishizu, who predicts that she will be in the 4th duel. Which means she already knows what's going to happen in the 3rd duel, and that's all I'm going to say for now. I imagine her powers can probably predict that a video on that 3-parter will probably be a rant view. We'll get there. 3 weeks before that one. As in, 2 more videos, and then we'll get to that one. So, there you go. Because we got a standalone, then we got the 2nd duel, then we've got that duel. I really don't want to talk about that one, but I got to. I'll just have to figure out. I just have to decide how the hell I'm going to discuss that episode, and it's probably going to just boil down to, you fridged a fucking character. What the fuck are you thinking? But that's beside the point. We'll get there. We'll get there. Which, by the way, is another part of the reason why I do these, I do these the way I do these. Like, I do the entirety of a multi-parter in one video regardless. In a work like Star Trek, yeah, that makes sense, and it's decide when you get there. But with Yu-Gi-Oh, you might as well just do it in one go, because an individual part isn't going to have anything. I mean, this episode would give me next to nothing to talk about. Part 2 would be where all the meat is, and the only thing that I'd have to discuss in part 3 would be, of course, the moment. And the ruse, and how dumb it is. We'll get there. Well, I shouldn't say how dumb the ruse is. The ruse itself is clever. What it results from it is dumb. We'll get there. But anyways, so Yami Bakura basically talks about how he's like, oh yes, of course I want your Millennium Puzzle, but I don't quite need it right now. There's actually something else I'm coming after from you. And he's coy about it in the dub. He outright says it in the sub. I'm after your God card. Merrick is kind of annoyed by this, because it's like, why are you telling him all of this? And he's like, the fuck do you care? It's not like I'm gonna blab and say, yeah, the dude in that white vest is actually Merrick. It's not like he's saying that out loud. Who the fuck cares? Cares if they know that you know that you're working with Yami Bakura, Merrick. Nobody fucking cares. And would they believe you? Also, the angle of Merrick was controlling Bakura, that's another dumb bit too. Like what? Which is funny because previous episodes claimed that that Merrick was controlling Yami Bakura as well. Yeah, I don't even need the spoiler from the Millennium World arc to tell you how fucking bullshit that is. Which is funny because in hindsight that becomes triply fucking bullshit. Like, yeah, okay, you're in control of the spirit of the Millennium Ring. Yeah, okay, sure, Merrick. Sure. Her. And Yugi has had more boon on his dick than anyone else in the entire Yu-Gi-Oh universe. Hers, sure. Look, I know I'm being dumb with that, but like, I needed something ridiculous that got across my point of like just. As I said, Merrick is the weak link in this three-parter. He is the worst part of this three-parter. By far. Then again, I've also never liked Merrick as a character. At all. I'm the jackass who fucking hates Merrick. And not just because he's a villain. He's not a love to hate him kind of character. He is a get the hell off my screen. Not quite a get the fuck off my screen, because that's the furthest extreme. But no, he's a get the hell off my screen. He's kind of in the middle of get off my screen and get the fuck off my screen. He's kind of in the middle of that, because either, so I do want him off the screen, but I don't. But he's not actively ruining the series every time he's on screen. Well, not every time he's on screen. Hence the get the hell off my screen. Sometimes I'm intrigued. I'm enthralled by his stuff. Friends to the end. The reason why the description of Friends to the End is TLDR. Watch this one subbed. Is a thing because I do stand behind that. That entire four-parter is one you watch subbed because it's so much more enjoyable in the sub than it is in the dub. I hated it in the dub even back in the day when the only thing I was exposed to for this series was the dub. When all I knew about this series was the dub, I still hated that four-parter. That four-parter is so much better in the sub, like I said. But I digress. So, you know, there's also another thing I want to. Yeah, there's two more things I want to talk about before we get into the dub prop. Into the dub proper, into the duel proper. Excuse me. There's two more things I want to talk about. The brief one that I'll mention is that the explanation of the Millennium Ring is better in the sub. I'll grant you that. The second thing is the altitude thing. I actually kind of like this as a condition because again, testing your resolve and your stamina is actually good. And well, yeah, no, I won't. I don't think for a millisecond that you're going to be encountering really, really ridiculous temperatures like, say, if you lived in Canada, for example. But I could see 1,000 feet in the air, it being kind of ridiculous, especially considering you're on a moving aircraft. Which will, of course, be used for a gag with Joey a little in his duel, but let's leave that alone. Oh, that duel's gonna be mean to Joey. Oh, I mean, if I remember correctly, 4 turns of pure bricking. Yeah. Anywho. So yeah, I do like the conditions though. That's pretty good. Uh, all right. So then let's get into the duel proper. So Yami Bakura summons 3 monsters in attack position, all of which have better defense points. Portrait Secret, Ghost of Dreams, the Ghost of Fleeting Dreams, and Headless Knight. He plays them all in attack mode, and the explanation in the sub, but specifically, is they don't give an explanation in the dub. In the sub, Kaiba basically exposits that had Bakura defended, Yugi would have hesitated to attack. Okay. No, I mean, that's logical. Flip effects, right? It's not like Yami Bakura, has used flip effects before. So, yeah, and it's not like Yami Bakura can play these vanilla monsters in face up defense. Oh, wait! He, like, and the argument is defeated because there's 2 monsters that Yugi summons face up in defense mode, and those are legal plays. Karibo and Big Shield Gardna are summoned in defense mode face up. What? And people wonder why. And people wonder why. Hey, why the running gag for a lot of people was I could curb stomp the players in the anime. Because you can. It's stupidly easy. Oh my god. Ugh. Ugh. I hate this damn. The enemy's logic just is illogical. God, I almost want to. I almost want to put the freaking little clip of Claude from Fire Emblem Three Houses saying your logic, his little line to Costas in Three Houses. I'm probably gonna freaking do that. I'm probably gonna record that after I chop this off and then and just put that in here because it's like, your logic is completely illogical, Kaiba. Seto. I'm sorry. Again, face up defense, vanilla monsters, no effects. Uh.
Your logic is illogical.
I mean, the only thing that would have. The only one. Okay, the only one I would grant you on that is Dark Necrofear. You want to know why? 2,800 defense. That's hard for most decks to get over. So I'm willing to let at least Dark Necrofear go. Because, okay, fine. Dark Necrofear. Dark Necrofear, he wanted Dark Necrofear destroyed, and so he gave Yugi an easy way to get rid of Dark Necrofear. Okay, logical, makes perfect sense. Those first 3 monsters still make no fucking sense. That was way too fucking reckless, you goddamn buffoon. Face-up defense is a thing. Be better at the fucking game. By the way, that's what I would have done in Yami Bakura's position. Oh, I need these 3 fiend monsters to be destroyed. Alright. Defense, defense, defense. You really think Yugi couldn't get over that? I mean, yeah, it would take Dark Magician Girl a couple of turns, but she'd still be able to do it. Hell, if anything, it would be like if, okay, let's say the first 2 monsters get destroyed because of whatever, right? It, like, I don't know, let's say Beta showed up instead of Gamma, right? So Beta shows up. Gazelle attack. Maybe have the first one be in face down defense. It's the portrait's secret. Then there's so no damage. Then the second one is it's that. So then Beta shows up or something. I'm also trying to stick to what I reasonably know is in Yugi's Battle City deck. By the way, I'm not. That's why I'm not trying to use monsters like Skilled Dark Magician or the Tricky or I'm suddenly blanking on any others, but you get my point. This is why I'm not trying to add those monsters into consideration, right? And even then, it's like, well, there's Dark Magician Girl right there. So even if you wanted to do Gazelle as the first one, and then Beta as the second, then you could have Dark Magician Girl as the third, and then it would just take her a couple of turns to get rid of the others. Beta gets rid of Portrait's Secret. The Dark Magician Girl comes out and deals with. Or hell, have Portrait's Secret and attack first. He loses the 300 from that. Then he summons the next one to defense. Hence, and Dark Magician Girl comes out, bam, the second one goes down. He defends again with Headless Knight. Dark Magician Girl takes that out, then attacks directly with Gamma, right? You still get the 1,500 point decrease, but without losing stupid high amounts of life points, right? Which, by the way, then would also constitute him not losing an extra. Fuck, what is that? Let's see. He lost 300 from Portrait's Secret getting destroyed. Then he lost another 200. And then he lost another 200 from that. From the Ghost. Then he lost 1,500 there, so that was 2,000 he lost. Then he lost an additional 50. Then he lost another 1,500. That's insane. Let's also add to the fact that if he had summoned Dark Magician Girl and activated Magic Formula, that would have ended the duel right there. But hindsight and dramatic effect, right? It's easy to say in hindsight, but I'm not willing to throw Yugi under the bus for that. I'm sure some would call it a misplay. I'm sure TGS Anime did call it a misplay, but that one I'm gonna let go because no. But no, I'm sorry, Yami Bakura really fucked up hard in all 3 of his attacks. And Kaiba saying that Jinochi questioning Seto saying that Jinochi questioning that makes him an ordinary duelist can fuck right off because that's not at 500 IQ playing. That's negative 500 IQ playing, in my opinion. It's fucking stupid. That's why you put the Portrait's Secret in attack first. That gets destroyed. Then you defend with the next 2. And then you can just be like. Because then the idea is, oh shit, I've already got him on the defensive. Alright, I'm going to get cocky and I'm going to beat his ass into the ground. Yeah. Awesome. Never mind the fact that that I have literally stalled out multiple turns with 2,000 defense point monsters. Ugh. I know I'm harping on this point. Like I've probably spent like 5 minutes talking about this one fucking stupid point. But this is what bugs me about this, and honestly, a lot of these older duels. This is not strategy. This is stupidity. Idity. Like, I'm sorry, smacking your head against the wall is not strategic. It's suicidal. Like, come on. Ugh. Anyways. Ugh. So then Dark Necrofear shows up, and what's stupid about this? What's stupid about this is there's only one version of one character who understands that they should probably be worried about what Dark Necrofear can do. And that's Kaiba. As in the dub version of Seto Kaiba is the only version of anyone who even remotely has a clue of, okay, yeah, no, he wouldn't have sacked that many goddamn life points if he didn't really believe that Dark Necrofear could turn this duel completely around for him. Even Seto is like, is he bluffing? Seto, he's a last minute entrant into your tournament, who, by the way, especially was not supposed to frickin' be here, for the record. And he managed to play one duel, which your system should have picked up on, by the way, while we're on the subject. By the way, established all the way back in Yugi versus Rare Hunter, which was... one sec. Episode 50 something? Okay, hang on. This is gonna bug me until I look it up. Give me a second. Heckin'. Don't worry, this won't take me long, because, I've got thumbnails. Let's see. What episodes was that? That was episodes 56 and 57. We're on episodes 82 through 84. So that was close to 30 episodes ago. So, yeah, no. It's like, is he bluffing? God, that's so dumb. Like, of course he's not fucking bluffing! Come on! Your frickin' satellites should have picked up on this! Like, God, his dual disc should be registered to Schmuckhead McGee. You know? You can't tell me that that his dual disc didn't register his cards. Like, oh my god. Oh, oh god. Dumb. This is just so dumb. Now, I know he was sitting in the stadium for a while, so maybe he didn't, see the data on that duel, but it's like, why wouldn't you check that just after boarding or something? I don't know. I don't get Seto, honestly. I just don't get him. I just don't. God. Ugh. And again, this is something I know I'm harping too much on, but like, come on. Are you fucking serious right now? Ugh. Ugh. So then Yugi summons so then Yugi reveals magic formula which he set. Uh Actually, you know what? I need to look something up. Give me a second. This will only take me a moment because I need to look up a specific thing involving Magic formula. Whoops. Magic formula. Need to look up specifically the anime version. Give me a second. Oh. Well. Never mind then, apparently. Apparently, because that's not until GX that it's like that. Oh wow, and it's way more it's more powerful, but it's more restrictive. In the real card game. Ugh. Okay. So Magic Formula, for those that don't know, is a spell card that in the anime, specifically here in Battle City, spellcasters get a boost of 500 attack. In the real card game, it can only be used on Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl because those are the only two of the only monsters that have its power. And when it leaves the field, you gain 1,000. If it leaves the field, you gain 1,000 life points. The gain 1,000 life points thing is only something that happens later on in GX when it shows up, which is kind of ironic. And kind of ironic. It doesn't. It takes until GX until it shows back up again, and it actually has its proper effect in there. How's that for irony? Regardless, though, yeah. So never mind. And he bluffed. He used Magic Formula as a bluff. That's bluffing. Because Magic Formula literally is literally just Dark Pendant without the burn in the anime. Which is funny because I don't recall actually. Let me look that up because there's two equip cards that I'm actually curious if they actually showed up in the anime. I don't think they did, but I will double check. Looks like it did not. Oh, maybe it did. Oh. Actually, it shows up 2 times here in. So Black Pendant shows up 2 times. One in an episode we'll be getting to. And well, okay, both which we will be getting to. And then it doesn't show up again until frickin' in episode 6 of Reigns. And even then it's a cameo in Reigns. Ugh, wow. Just wow. And then the second one is the other one I'm curious about, which is Malevolent Nuzzler. Instead of burning, you can return it. That one did not appear in the anime. So Malevolent Nuzzler did not appear in the anime, but Black Pendant did. Okay. Okay, cool. That's all I needed to know. No. I am actually going to need Black Pendant for a later thing. Anyway, so I might as well save that. Grab that now. Anyways, sorry for wasting your time on that. I was just curious about that. Which is funny because equip cards really were just kind of there in the anime, weren't they? And somehow the ghost counts as an equip card. Look, the whole collective power on Karibo thing is simultaneously clever and funny, so I'll let it be. I'll let it be, you know? But we'll get there. So, magic formula powers up Dark Magician Girl. Dark Necrofear is destroyed. Dark Sanctuary shows up. And that ends part one. Anything else? Oh, there was also a cutaway when Gazelle attacks, which is also in the sub, which I thought was weird, because at first I thought that was censorship, but no, that's in the sub too. What? I don't know. That's when you get that exterior shot of the battleship of Kyber Craft 3. He instead of seeing Gazelle hit Bakura directly, which is just kind of what? That's weird. That's weird, but whatever. Now we move on to part 2, the episode in which literally I only have 2 notes in the sub because everything else is universal pretty much. So this is when the Dark Sanctuary's ghost basically pulls the whole drain thing, which is kind of cool, not gonna lie. Nice way to add some tension. Then Destiny Board shows up. So here we are. This is where we got to talk about Destiny Board. Now, Dark Sanctuary, I don't really have much to say about Dark Sanctuary. Dark Sanctuary is there, right? It's basically there to be creepy and everything. But it has another function that is added to, which adds to the flavor. Excuse me, which adds to the flavor of Destiny Board. Now, let me go ahead and say this. This was one of the first alternate win conditions that was in Exodia, right? Because I don't remember if I talked about this all the way back in episode 1, because again, by this point, we're creeping up on it having been 3 years since I recorded that episode, by the way. Hey, just so that you understand just how long this project has been in development hell for. And yes, I say specifically development hell because again, in June 2024, June 18th, 2024, yeah, that's a hell of a freaking time period, right? I'm hoping that the next project that I do in this format isn't gonna take me that long. Otherwise, we might as well call it the Four Kids Curse. Even though this time it will be of them having footed although this time it will have been because their influence on the series will of course be because as they kind of footed the bill. Anyways, we're a ways off from that. Admittedly, I'm nowhere near ready to start recording that. I would love to be able to just immediately start recording that, but no. I need to watch through the entire series again. Now, I didn't do that with DM because, well, I'd be tempted to go through the sub too, and yeah, no, I kind of need to do that, which is also the same of why I haven't started on a particular anime. Speaking of which, I need to reorder collection 6 of that. Anyways, I'm getting way off topic. The point here is that Destiny Board is the first time they have these alternate win conditions, right? In fact, what's funny is that there are 3 alternate win conditions that were introduced in DM. 2 of which there's 2 that I think GX brought forth. I think 2. 2 that I'm aware of for sure. So if there's any others, I'm not aware of them. And I think there was at least 1 in 5Ds, but I could be wrong about that. Of course, there was the gimmick puppet. The gimmick puppet. I'm pretty sure the gimmick puppet condition was in Zale Hill. Give me 1 second. Oh, there he is. There it is. That was what I was looking for. Number 88. 8. Gimmick Puppet of Leo. Because I forgot of the search didn't come up with it right away. So, yeah. Yeah. Gimmick Puppet of Leo and his evolved form, Chaos, the Chaos, Chaos number 88. 8. Gimmick Puppet Disaster Leo. Yo. So you had the Destiny counters on him, and then with this one, and you detach materials from the card from this card, inflict 1,000 points to your opponent, and then during your end phase of your opponents are 2,000 or less, and this card has no materials, you win the duel, basically. Basically, so. Hey, what do you know? Oh, I figured it out. Cool. Sorry for wasting time on that, it, but that's what editing is for, right? That's the magic of editing. I'm probably gonna trim this down quite a bit too, anyway. It's the irony is that light's been on the entire time, and then it would have actually been more fitting if I had turned it off. Whatever. Point is, is that yeah, this is Destiny board is an alternate win condition, and it's one of the weakest ever because one MST gets rid of it. Yeah, Destiny board is a gimmick. Which is funny because that's usually how most alternate win conditions are in this game. Hell, look at the look at the true Exodia, for example. That guy's just what the hell? And yet people still found a way to get his thing off. Get his effect off. Like, wow, really? Ugh. But I'm way off topic. Let's keep going. So Sangen shows up and has his proper effect, which is good. Again, not very strong. Bullshit, Yugi. The real life ban list says hi. But I've already talked about Sangen all the way back in my rant view with Rebecca. If you don't want to watch me bitching about a little bitch, well then I'll just go ahead and sum it up here. They're searchers. They search cards. There's Sangen is 1,000 or less attack, and Witch of the Black Forest is 1,000 or less defense. Yeah, powerful cards. Words, like I said. So Yugi's overthinking things constantly in this, which is just irritating. Which one of my monsters is possessed? Barely matters. Dude. Just get on with it. So then he pulls the collective power to pull all of the equips, including the ghost apparently, into Karibo. And then he activates Exile of the Wicked, which destroys fiend monsters. I actually really like that. I also love how you can in one of the shots you can actually see Karibo because the magical formula is pulled away from Dark Magician Girl and flings over to Karibo, and Karibo is just trying to read it, and he's getting and he's kind of he's got that squiggly line emoji above his head because he's not a sage. He doesn't know how to. He's not a spellcaster. He doesn't know how to read a spell book, and he's trying. Bless his furry little heart. He is trying. You know, which by the way would be the only reason to summon Karibo instead of just playing Karibo just freaking cuz. What would he have done if Karibo had been dead? Whatever. So then he revives Dark Necrofear after getting rid of that. Yet, Merrick says, "Oh, maybe I should take over and duel them." No, that would be fucking pointless, you dumbass. Ugh. Oh yeah, the message is explained right off the bat in the sub, by the way. Yami Bakura literally says, "I will spell out DEATH, death, and it will be your death sentence, Yugi." Which is kind of funny in that regard, because literally the message has to be spelled out, and then he figures it out when 4 of the 5 letters show up. But whatever. But yeah. Then Yami Bakura draws Jaugen the Spiritualist and starts laughing. So then Dark Sanctuary shows up again because Jaugen gets rid of Dark Necrofear after Yugi revives it with Monster Reborn. Which explaining that to Yami Bakura is fucking pointless. I was like, are you kidding me? Why did you need to explain that? Like, fucking hell. The lore runner has bitched about the as you know dialogue. That's as you know dialogue right there. Why the fuck do you have to explain that, Merrick? Why the hell are you fucking talking to Yami Bakura this entire duel? Sit down, shut up, wait for the moment when your plan will actually be worth a fucking damn, and then start flapping your fucking gums. Until then, shut up and stop wasting our fucking time and Studio Gallops' money. You asshole! As I said, cutting anything out in its entirety. Probably not. Except maybe Lights Camera Duel. But trim it, slim it down, and you could easily get the same amount of stuff out in like 10 less episodes. I wasn't fucking joking when I said that. Why do we need to have the fucking, for example, the ruse in part 3 be 5 minutes long? Just to name one example, that's a quarter of the episode. A quarter of an episode is devoted to that. Why? Battle City is super well paced. No, it's fucking not. No, it's fucking not. Like, I'm sorry, but no. Oh my god. Oh. Oh. And I've actually got a great example of this. This is not, before somebody accuses me of, oh, you don't like it because it's slow, it's a slow burn. No! I hate it because it's bad pacing. What they're using their time on screen for is bad. How do I know this? Because I've watched the first Godfather movie and the second James Bond movie from Russia with Love. From Russia with Love is actually the specific example I want to name, because that thing is close to 2 hours long or something like that. And you know what the funny thing about that movie is? I watched it for the first time, well, last year. I wasn't bored for a millisecond of that film. Not 1 second of screen time was I ever bored during that film. Do you know how fucking rare that is for me? And yeah, I didn't stutter. I said not 1 second. And I mean that sincerely. There is intrigue all over the goddamn place with that thing. And yes, not even at the gypsy camp. It makes way more sense and it's in context, I swear. But there's a part of there's the gypsy camp section, with the girls fighting over who gets to marry this dude. Dude, Again, I swear it makes more sense in context. It's a 60s movie, so. But, again, I was never bored by that. Now, whether or not you think that's a good section of the film is a whole different story. But I was never sitting here. I was never sitting in my chair. This actual very chair, ironically. I was never sitting in my chair going, "Get on with it. Get on with it. Get the fuck on with it." I was never saying that during From Russia with Love. In this three-parter, I was getting sick and tired of it. It didn't bug me so much with the dub because I was like, the dub does drag. It does feel like the dub drags. But the problem is that the dub drags because the fucking sub dragged its heels. And that's the problem. I have literally run into episodes where I literally ran into a three-parter where practically an entire scene was cut, and the dub was better for having cut that bit. It was actually during Duel Monster Quest, aka Legendary Heroes, back in season 1. An entire chunk of episode dropped. 40 seconds. I'm pretty sure it was something like 40 seconds of footage that was just chopped out of the dub, and the dub was paced better because of it. This is what I mean when I say that the sub drags its fucking heels. Because you didn't need to waste 40 seconds worth of animation budget for that. And I know I'm harping on this point, but the thing is that it's the reason why I'm bitching about them having wasted their budget is because I at least have a tangential understanding of just how much of a colossal pain in the ass animation is. It is not a quick process. You don't type a couple of keys on your keyboard or or then drag your mouse in a specific pattern and call it a day. you know? Like even my editing doesn't take me it takes me some amount of time. Usually depending on how long of a video I end up editing, but you know? Mm. So Yugi is backed into a corner. There's only one deck in his deck. There's only one card in his deck that can save him. I will bet everything I have as a duelist on this draw. And he calls out Osiris the Heaven Dragon. The sub basically hides the fact right up until Seto's thought of what card he needs. Right up until that point, which is basically right before he draws it, right before he utters the line, "I'll bet everything I am as a duelist on this card." And I just have to question that. Like, why? What the fuck's the point of that? Yeah, the way the dub said it was kind of dumb, but it's like, just say it's like, if we don't play Osiris now, we'll lose. You know? Ugh. And to get his memories back. Oh, and by the way, just to continue that whole the pride thing is not his weakness. It's Yugi that has to remind him, yeah, you're not going to get your memories back if we don't win. We need to win so you can get your memories back. The scene is definitely better. The actual summoning is better in the sub. because because of the music. The music is beautiful. I actually don't mind the Egyptian god card theme that the dub came out with. I actually really like it. My personal favorite is the one that actually ends part one of the final four-parter of the series. Actually, the real test will now begin. Right, but that's beside the point. Uh, but yeah, he summons an Egyptian god card for the first time because he's been backed that far into a corner. The ghost, uh, the ghost, Ra is immune to the ghost. Goes to Dark Sanctuary. Uh, that makes no sense. Because magic cards are supposed to affect god cards for one turn, which is like, wait, what? Huh? This is actually the start of god cards having inconsistent powers. So shrug. But whatever. So then Yugi goes to declare Slifer's. Fuck! I did it again. Yugi goes to declare Osiris's attack. Nick. And then Odeon shows up. Up. What do you want, Merrick? Merrick. I've been in control of Bakura this whole time. Here, let me prove it by releasing him. So, yeah, release your control of your host, and Yugi will stop attacking. And also, Kaiba will be proven to be a colossal fucking dick in this episode. The ruse is clever from Merrick's perspective. It just makes Kaiba a dick, which is dumb, especially considering they've been kind of graying him out. You care more about, especially considering, like, I'm sorry. Again, here's the thing. I mean, we know the god cards do damage. Kaiba knows this. He's done it before. What the hell? Now, maybe because, Loomis and Umbra weren't actually, like, killed when he attacked with Obelisk, but I don't know. Something about that just makes me question that. Because, again, the burn cards. Solid vision is there's a specific word in your text name that makes me go, what the why did you take asshole pills this morning, Ernie Sato? And that is solid vision. As in those holograms, you feel it. And on top of that, when you first summoned Obelisk, you blew up your machine. The dual computer, which was kind of dangerous considering it was using your deck and you could have burnt your Blue Eyes cards, but whatever. Mm. This is what I mean when I say Seto is inconsistently written, by the way. Because it's like, are you fucking kidding me? Are we sure Kaiba's not a fucking asshole? Well, because he's acting like a fucking asshole. Which is funny because that gets, and then that just gets negated instantaneously because Yami Bakura is like, no, I prefer to win on my own terms. Terms takes over. I'll let you have this victory. Donk. Get him to his room. Millennium Ring is being held onto by Anzu because Merrick is still in control of her. Well, has a little bit of control over her right now. Can take control whenever he wants, kind of thing. And of course, we have to have the dramatic reveal. Yeah, okay. So, yeah. I do now. There's one last thing I want to talk about right here at the end. So if you're here just for the episode, this is where it's chopping, because I do need to talk about an actual spoiler thing this time. So spoilers. I'll probably put the word spoilers at the bottom so you know to mute me or whatever. I don't have a rosebud image like the lore runner does, so you're gonna have to settle for text on screen in for that. Maybe I could create. Maybe I should get commission a spoiler image from Steve. But he would have to get that done by like by the 8th, or no, or either the 8th or the 15th of next month, and that's Regardless, heardless spoilers. Okay, it's your last chance for spoilers. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So, given who Yami Bakura is revealed to be way later in Millennium World, I find Yami Bakura's saying he doesn't need to win now interesting, which also makes the ruse pointless, but then again, that's Yami Bakura for you. Or, to be more accurate, that's Zork for you. I said spoilers. The interesting thing is that I think the reason why is because, well, to be blunt, he wasn't ready. As he says in this episode, he's not quite ready for opening the door to darkness yet. But what's funny, and haha, get your Kingdom Hearts jokes out there. You know, get them out there. They're all good. But what I find fascinating about this, this is Yami Bakura. How do I phrase this? Yami Bakura is interestingly chaotic, and considering that he's Zork, a massively powerful demon from the darkness, that makes sense. And yeah, we'll touch on the whole he's supposedly the ultimate being of darkness and the creator of the Shadow Realm and all that shit a bit later. Which is funny because I actually have a headcanon that could actually, make that make sense. But obviously discussing it now wouldn't actually mean anything. You know? Oh, and what's also funny is, I guess I forgot to mention this outside of the spoiler section, but we will not actually be seeing Yami Bakura for, now. What is that? Well, no, okay, no. No. We still have one more duel with him, actually, in this season. Never mind, but that's beside the point. But outside of that, we won't be seeing him for literally 2 whole seasons and a frickin' 13-episode filler arc. The main villain of the series, ladies and gentlemen. Which I know some people would say that makes it more interesting because of how little he appears, but we'll get there. But yeah, So I find his choice fascinating here, and it kind of works. It works really well. But that's all I got. So now we've got another freaking standalone. The origin of the Egyptian god cards will finally be revealed in the next episode. At least I'll have something to talk about when we get with that one, but that will be saved for next time. So until then, Blue Wolf Alex of the Lore Walker signing out. Have a good one. Duel stand by.